Buenos dias, Kodiaks. It's another Wednesday. Today I have part 1 of Chester Nez and the Unbreakable Code. So next Wednesday we'll show part 2. This is a Navajo Code Talker's story by Joseph Bruchac. All right. October 1929. Month of small wind. When Batoli was 8 years old, the time came for him to go to boarding school. He had to leave his family, his home, and the goats and sheep he loved and took care of. He climbed into the back of the missionary's truck. "You need an English name," the missionary said. Batoli's name was Navajo, like he was. "You'll be Chester," the man said. At Fort Defiance School, the matron shaved off Chester's long hair and gave him a blue uniform to wear. They made him use English, a language he'd never spoken, and when Chester spoke Navajo, the matrons washed out his mouth with yellow soap. "Navajo is bad. Speak only English." Wow, this picture makes me feel really sad. Many years earlier, in the 1860s, the U.S. Army had held Navajos captive at Fort Defiance. From there, the Army forced the Navajos to go on the Long Walk, a journey of 300 miles into what is now New Mexico. Many people suffered and died. Fort Defiance was now a boarding school for Navajo children, but some of the youngest students had bad dreams because of the fort's history. Chester did his best to calm their fears at night. He reminded them they were not alone. They still had families back home. June 1932, month of big planting. Over the summer, Chester returned home where he could again speak the sacred language the holy people had given the Navajos a long time ago. When he cared for the sheep and the goats and prayed using corn pollen, he felt like a real Navajo living the right way. His heart was strong again. Being home took away the loneliness Chester felt at school. September 1932, month of half. Chester returned to school where he was again told his Navajo language was worthless. "You must use only English to survive in the white man's world," the matrons said. Chester knew he might need to live in the white man's world one day. In that world, speaking English was essential, so he worked hard and did well. Chester enjoyed learning and wanted to prove his worth. He also learned to pray the Catholic way and serve as an altar boy. The Catholic way was very good, but so was the Navajo way. Though he spoke English at school, Chester kept his love for his Navajo people and their language. He decided to never break the ties that bound him to them. December 1941, month of crusted snow. Chester was in 10th grade when the school principal called the students together. "The Japanese Empire attacked us at Pearl Harbor," he said. "We're at war." The United States had fought the Navajos years ago, but now the United States was their country too. Chester thought about how his ancestors stood up against enemies. He should act with the same courage. Protecting his homeland was an honor. "I am a warrior," Chester said to himself. "I will fight for this land." April 1942, the month of big plant. Recruiters from the U.S. Marine Corps came to the reservation. "We need Navajo men who speak English and Navajo," they said. The U.S. military needed a new way to send its secret messages. The messages were sent in code over the radio, but since anyone's radio could receive those messages, the enemy could hear them too. The Japanese had broken every American code. The Marines tried using a coding machine, the shackle, to create an unbreakable code, but the machine took too long to encode and decode messages. Then a former Army soldier, a missionary son who had once lived on the Navajo reservation, suggested using Navajo, a language almost impossible for non-Navajos to speak. The Marines agreed to try it. Many Navajos volunteered to join the Marines, but only 29 were chosen, including Chester. They became Platoon 382. Suddenly, the language he had been told to forget was important. Chester was proud he had never given up speaking Navajo. Wow. Kind of interesting. It's a true story, right? This is a historical, kind of like historical fiction, but Chester Nez is a person, a real person. So this author is telling the story of someone who was really alive during this time, and the Navajo Code Talkers are a real group of people. Can you imagine being told something over and over again as a child from your country? Oh, sorry, your language doesn't work. It's not good. And then being told, oh, wait, it's important now because we need it. Seems like a really, really hard thing to do and a really brave thing to do for Chester to agree to sign up for the Marine Corps. We will finish this next week and find out what happens. All right.